Is now a good time to buy a house in the UK? My honest answer is it does depend, but probably not for the reason you're thinking. I speak to first time buyers every single day, and this is a reoccurring question that keeps coming up. Is now a good time to buy a house? Now, the absolute biggest mistake I'm seeing people make right now in today's market is trying to time the market. Now, this actually comes in two different forms. Now, the most common form I'm seeing right now is people are waiting for house prices to miraculously drop. And the other side of the mistake there is people waiting for the perfect interest rate. And the reality is both of those two are never going to happen simultaneously, or they're probably not going to happen in the way that you probably think they're going to happen. Therefore, you're not going to be able to time the market. Stop waiting for the perfect price or stop waiting for the perfect interest rate. It's not going to happen. Now, throughout the video, I'm going to properly break down and assess whether or not it is a good time to buy a house in the UK. And like I said, it does depend. Four different factors, four very important factors that are individual to your circumstances. So, but what this video is truly aiming to do is answer the question for you watching: is now a good time to buy in the UK for you? So, and just as a spoiler, what you're seeing flashed on your screen right now is exactly what we're building out in this video: a complete document assessing everything that you need to know, the pros and cons, the 4 different things you need to consider, and a conclusion as to what you should be doing. So what you're seeing here is the start of the document. So is now a good time to buy a house in the UK? And it depends on these 4 things. So let's jump straight into it. And don't forget, there are timestamps throughout the video. So if you want to jump to certain sections, you absolutely can. Now, the first factor we really need to consider is your personal situation. This is by far the most important thing to consider. Let's look at why. Now, one of the most important parts is income stability. Now, having a stable income and knowing that you're going to continue having a stable income for 2, 5, 10 years is really important when buying a home. Now, something that we're going to explore in more detail is you buying a property for the long term is way less risky than buying a property for the short term and even the medium term in some extreme scenarios, which I don't think we're in currently. So having a property where you are comfortable there for 5 to 10 years or potentially even longer really does lean on stability, because it means you're settled in your job, you're settled in the location, which means you can settle in a specific place and a specific size of property that you're definitely going to be able to afford for the long term, which is really important. And it all leans on income stability for yourself, and if you're buying with someone, them as well, because again, we live in a market where it's really important that everyone contributing mortgage has stability. Now, next on the list is deposit ready. Now, this one is really important, because again, if you are asking the question, should I buy a house right now, you should really be looking at, yes, can I afford to buy the house, and is my income stable enough to sort of continue maintaining that property once I'm the owner of it for at least the medium to long term. But the next question is, do I have the deposit to buy a house right now? I mean, that really does come down to an affordability question, but also down to a credit scoring question as well. So if you have that question, do I have enough deposit, and you think potentially you do, you know, you're looking at 10, 15% deposit for what you're looking to buy, or even 5% in some situations, or potentially more, then you can have a conversation with an advisor like myself, booking a call, top link in the description, to potentially go through what you're able to do and whether or not you do have deposit available. These 2 factors are really incredible when paired together. Now, I know I mentioned income stability, but job security is just as important. So is your job safe? Is the important part. Now, we're going through a lot of changes in the world, making sure that you know, you're in a stable career where you're going to be able to maintain that mortgage for the medium term to long term is going to be incredibly important. Not only geographically, you know, are you comfortable where you're buying your property, which comes down to stability, but job security does kind of go in there, which is, you know, how's your career going? Are you comfortable in the long term? If so, then you're going to be absolutely fine. But pairing those 3 together, if you are comfortable with your income stability, you're comfortable that your deposit is ready, and you're comfortable that you've got job security there that is going to be long term, and potentially job security does also mean that it's not necessarily that you stay with the same employer all the time. It just means that your job is in demand. So regardless of if you're with this employer or a new employer, you're going to be able to maintain kind of stability and job security together. If the answer to all 3 of those is yes, they're all great, then your personal situation is great. So we've ticked off the most important part. And I have to finish off this section. It's less about the current market and more about your position within it. So important to understand, regardless of the market. I mean, we have this conversation with people even when interest rates are low. You know, it's more about you being ready. At the end of the day, you're the one that lives in the property. You're the one that has the immediate plans where this property needs to meet it. And then also, you're the one that has to pay the mortgage. So again, it's less about the market, more about your position within it. Now we're moving on to number 2 here, which is your current market conditions. Incredibly important. Consider this, because again, you are joining the market in the current conditions. So understanding it and making sure that it's right is incredibly important. But again, this does fall second in line to your personal situation. So if all of your personal situation is perfect for entering the market, then you can actually start considering the current market. Now, it goes without saying, rates are higher years. So rates have spiked in the last couple of months, quite considerably across the whole of the market. So again, it's going to be obvious that a like-for-like 40-year mortgage term versus a 40-year mortgage term from 2 months ago on the exact same amount of borrowing, yes, the months are going to be a lot higher today. So it's really important to note that rates are higher than recent years, and understanding what that means for affordability is incredibly, incredibly important. And again, we can match that back to your personal situation to make sure that your personal situation is ticked and you can actually enter the market. Now, don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom, because the next part is competition is lighter years. Now, this is so overlooked in conversation with clients, because they're saying, right, well, I'm looking at properties, I can afford the properties, but the rates are so high, it's incredibly important. But what you're not understanding is competition is so much lighter in this current market, and that is going to help you in a number of different ways. Now, the first way that's going to really, really help you is less competition means more negotiating power. More negotiating power means the more you'll potentially be able to get off property, but also what you might be seeing is property price reductions hitting the market, because people who need to have less people approaching them for that property, if anyone at all. So less competition in the market gives you a greater opportunity to get a discount off the purchase price. And it's really important to know that conditions change, but the market itself cannot. So a lot of people are always worried about where the market's going. Don't worry about things that you can't control, because all these things do change over time. Rather, assess your personal situation, which we've ticked, assess the current market situation, and if you can make a deal work that works for you, and again, you can speak to an experienced advisor like myself to make sure that both match up, then you're entering the market at a good time, because it doesn't matter where interest rates are today, because interest rates are always changing. Where it really matters is finding the right property for you at the right price for you and an affordable monthly payment for you. Now, the third incredibly, incredibly important component here is that your long-term goals matter, and context matters for that as well. So let's look at that in more detail. I briefly mentioned it when we looked at your personal situation. Now, long-term goal is something that I always discuss. Long-term, medium-term, what are those looking like, at all? But having a good understanding of it is really, really incredibly important when your personal situation to the current market conditions and linking that to your term goals. All three of these need to work together, but without the personal situation, it all falls down. Without the personal situation and the current market conditions, it all falls down. And without all three, it's just impossible. So understanding your long-term goals, how long will you own this property for, is incredibly important. Now, for a lot of people, if you only need a one-bedroom house today, but in 5 years you potentially need a 3-bedroom house, but you can afford to go for the 3-bedroom house today, in these current market conditions, it's better to buy for the future than it is for today, because moving home, especially with current stamp duty rates as home movers rather than first-time buyers, it's incredibly hard and incredibly expensive. So you'd much rather commit to a property where you can see yourself for the long term, which gives you almost insurance for potential changes in the market for the medium term, because again, you're not concerned about the short term, medium term, you're concerned about the long term of owning that property. It's going to be far more advantageous buying somewhere where you can see yourself for at least 10 years rather than somewhere where it's maybe just 2 or 5 years. So if you are looking at the long term and you know your idea and you know you can afford that and it matches point 1 and 2, then that is going to be a great target, especially if you can negotiate a deal there. Now, I know we're looking at how long you're going to own the property, but the next point here is long-term lifestyle plans. This is incredibly, incredibly important, because a lot of people think about the future and they think about how many bedrooms they need, this, that, and the other. But something that people don't consider is long-term lifestyle plans. Now, this can be a magnitude. Now, lifestyle for me, when I'm considering it, is mainly due to location. Now, your lifestyle right now might be really city orientated, so you need to be in a busy, hectic city. I have this conversation with people all the time, whereas actually I have other clients where they live in a city right now and they've considered their long term and they're already thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. Yes, I need a 2-3 bedroom house for my family in the future, but I don't want to have my family in the future in a city, in a busy city. So people are moving to rural places because they've assessed their future lifestyle plans and said that actually, if I'm planning for the long term doesn't put me in a city. And vice versa, we have people that live in rural locations right now and are moving to urban places that are busy and hectic because they know that they actually want to be in a city with their family. It doesn't happen oftentimes, normally it's the other way around. But again, these are conversations you're having with either yourself or the person that you're buying a property with. Now, the next one nicely links into it, which is your family needs. Now, this is a conversation where if you've already got a family, it's a lot easier to answer because you probably already know what your family needs for the medium to the long term. And again, making sure it makes sense for your family is really, really incredibly important. And then the harder conversation, especially for those of you that don't have a family yet but are planning on building one in the near future, is how many kids you're looking to have, how many bedrooms do you need, what locations you want to be in. They all nicely tie into each other, but again, it's a really important conversation to have with your partner, or even if you're buying by yourself, what do you see in your future? Because answering this question is going to really enable you to buy a property that works for the long term. So again, incredibly important to consider. And if you want to have a call where it's just me and you, or myself, or you, myself, and your partner, again, we can have these conversations and see what's right. And it also nicely ties into what fixed period you go for as well. Everything needs to be considered in order to make sure the mortgage, the property is right, which nicely wraps the section up. Big decisions should align with where you're headed, not just where you today. So again, incredibly important. I want to hone in the point here. Your personal situation is fine and the current market conditions suit your needs and you can afford to enter the market in today's conditions, and this matches your long-term goals and you can find a property where you'd be comfortable for the medium to long term, then that is way more important than buying somewhere and rushing to buy somewhere for the short term just because you think it's right today. Don't think about today, think about the next sort of 5, 10, 15 years. Incredibly, incredibly important. And this is how people can really springboard into having a way better experience as a homeowner because they've considered these things. Now, number 4 is often looked over, your risk tolerance. Now, people don't normally consider this when buying a house because traditionally it's not risky buying a house if you look at the grand scheme of the market. But when people are talking about interest rate rises and people are Googling how to get help with mortgages and people are Googling, is this the next 2008? You really need to consider your risk tolerance in this scenario. And again, we are nicely linking this back to all the other points, and it does depend on all 4 points here, is your risk tolerance plays a massive component in whether or not this works. But when considering your risk tolerance, you also need to consider you are doing this for the long term. So anything you enter into today, you need to consider what this looks like in 10 years. Again, for those people that are concerned and when they're Googling, is this the next 2008? Is this the next 2009, where house prices did crash? Then what you need to consider is where the market is later. Have a look where the market moved from 2008 to 2023, and then come back to me and ask the same question. Is this a good time to buy? Well, people that considered their long term when buying in 2008, 2009, look where they are today. Way better off than they would have been if they'd waited. Now, I want to consider both of these together. So some people, they want certainty and they wait. Others, they see opportunity and they act. They look at point 1, they look at point 2, they look at point 3, and they think, right, let's go. Let's get the property I want for the long term and let's get it done today. I can afford the monthly mortgage payments. I can see myself in that property for 10, 15 years. And I'm confident that my personal situation matches what I need and what I require for this period of time. These are the people that are continually winning because they're entering the market regardless of higher interest rates. They're taking advantage of lower competition. The people that are acting are negotiating harder than ever and they're winning more than ever. When properties need to be sold and there are less buyers on the market because of higher interest rates, this is what we call a buyer's market. It's an opportunity for buyers to take advantage. It's terrible for people that need to sell their house because they could lose out and potentially have to sell their house for less than they would have 2 months ago. But for those of you that are buying, that's not your concern. Your concern is to get an opportunity and to buy at a good price at a good time that works for you. So again, take advantage of that. People that need certainty and wait are almost certainly going to continue to wait. There's never been a perfect time. People that needed certainty were waiting 2 months ago, they were waiting 3 months ago, they were waiting 4 months ago for rates to continue to drop throughout the year. And then a war happened. So again, there's never going to be a perfect time on the market. And everyone tries to warn people about this. There's not a perfect time. Now you can look at predictions and where things are going to be in a month, 2 months, but we get thrown curveballs in this market, in this world, all the time. There is never going to be a perfect time. And if there is a perfect time where, let's say, rates were at their best moment, and you secure that, that is pure luck. I don't know anyone that's timed the market because they planned to time the market. But what I do see every day is people missing out because they wait. Now I have to wrap up those 4 things to consider with, there's no universal right answer, only what's right for you. And I know I mentioned it at the start of the video. There is no, yes, now is the perfect time to buy, or no, do not buy right now. It really does fall back. And I'm going to hone it in one more time. If you have the risk tolerance to enter this market, you can afford the monthly mortgage payments with the higher interest rates. You found a property that not only meets your needs today, but meets your needs for the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even longer, and your personal situation allows you to enter this market confidence, then now's the time. But if you can't afford the monthly payments, you don't know what you want for the long term, then maybe this market isn't right. But don't worry, we are going to look at the pros and cons because I think it's really important to have a look at both sides. Now, I want to look at market reality before we jump into the pros and cons. And again, this is really, really worth remembering. If you've watched this video and you got to this point, this is what I want you to take away of the 4 points. The first thing, and I've mentioned it many times, no perfect time to act. There's no such thing. Forget people online that think they're gurus and say, wait until this time, wait until this happens, watch the market, there's going to be a crash. There's no perfect time. No one can predict that. They're bold statements to try get views. There's no perfect time. It's only what you know. There's no magical solution. What you need to do is you need to plan your situation and you need to make sure everything works out and it's right for your family. And again, you can do this with the help of an actual advisor like myself. You can have a conversation and make sure whatever we do it in the right way, at the right time, and a way that is manageable for family. So there's no magical solutions, just smart planning, smart execution. And something that I like to tell clients as well, easier if you accept the imperfections of the market. People are always looking for either the best interest rate or the best purchase price. Accept where we are, assess the situation, and make sure that you accordingly. That's all you can do. Now, finally, we're looking at pros and cons. Now, the first pro, as you can see on there, is you've got less competition. This means you can enter the market, you can look at a bunch of different properties, and you're going to have time to assess whether or not that property is right for you. And you're also going to have the ability to negotiate a good price that works for you. Less competition is absolutely fantastic as a buyer. I can tell you firsthand, it is painful entering negotiations when you've got 10 other buyers trying to secure the same home that you are. It's painful. You need to count your blessings because there's less competition, less stress, and potential to actually save money. Now, contrary to that, saving money, you're going to have higher monthly costs. Now, assuming you are already looking at potentially entering the market with the maximum mortgage term available to you, then your monthly payments are going higher. Now, if you weren't or you didn't do research, maybe a couple of months ago, you would have looked at taking a 30 or 35-year mortgage term. But if you have a 40-year mortgage term available for you, this can potentially mitigate costs and potentially reduce what your maximum payments would have been compared it to maybe a 30-year term months ago. But again, if you were looking at like for like, your monthly cost is going to be higher because the interest rate is higher. Where you can win, obviously linking back to that less competition, negotiating your price. And then the final pro and final con, we have the pro being your negotiating power. Again, really, really important. Less competition means that the power's in your hand as a buyer because there's less buyers on the market. But the con is tightability. Of course, if your monthly payments are higher, there's a higher chance that you won't be able to afford that on a monthly basis. Therefore, is tighter on affordability. It might not necessarily change what a lender's able to give you, but it might change your own perception, which is that's too expensive. I can't afford that. So not necessarily an affordability calculation, but more if you were to move into that property, could you afford that payment? Which sounds crazy, but sometimes lenders are willing to give you to afford. And we have seen customers self-regulating, which is exactly what you should be doing, and your advisor is going to help do that. But the really important part, which rounds everything off there, is of course the negotiating power. If you're paying an extra £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, £9,000 in interest across your first fixed period because of these higher interest rates, and again, you can use an advisor to potentially see what your additional costs would have been, whether you're comparing that to today versus 3 months ago, then you can just negotiate that price off the property. Now, it sounds really, really easy, and of course it's not because you're dealing property with someone selling their potential home. So again, you need to tread carefully when doing this. But if you assess the market properly and you assess what opportunities there are available out there, you can potentially save what your additional interest would have cost by just negotiating it off the purchase price. So I have seen multiple people saving way more money off reduced purchase prices that they would have potentially had to pay 3 months ago versus the additional cost of interest. So I've seen multiple people where they've saved £10,000 or £15,000 off the purchase price that they just would not have been able to achieve 3 months ago, but they're only paying an extra £6,000 of interest. So they're actually winning on this market, which is fantastic to see because I love buyers winning. And to wrap up that section of the video, the best time to buy your home isn't when the market feels perfect. It's when you're financially ready and the deal makes sense for you and your family. So I'm hearing the question, should I buy or should I wait? You have a stable income, your deposit is ready, and you can see yourself in this property for at least 5 years, maybe even 10 years. This is your time to buy. This is the perfect time to buy because you have the funds available, it's affordable, and you can see yourself there. Now, those of you that are thinking, right, well, should I wait? Well, you should wait if any of these finances are stretched, you have job uncertainty in the short to medium term, or you're looking to rush due to pressure of the market or pressure of external forces. If any of those three apply, considering waiting is extremely important. And if you're listening to those 6 different points there on whether you should buy now or whether you should wait, and maybe you sit somewhere in the middle, you should have a conversation with a mortgage advisor in the UK. I help people like you every single day go through the potential options there available and make informed decisions on whether to enter the market. Booking a call using that link in the description, we can have a conversation, answer all your questions, and just make sure if you are entering the market, it's right for you, and reduce any potential stress by just answering any and all questions. Booking the call is going to come through my whole entire online calendar, telling you when I'm available for a call, and we can find a time that works best. Now, I can hear your next question. Interest rates are rising. What should I do? Well, luckily for you, there's a video on your screen right now which tells you an exact step-by-step on what you should be doing when interest rates are rising and how you can take full advantage of it. So those of you that are ready to buy, yes, now's a good time to enter the market. Click on that video. I'm going to tell you how you can take full advantage of this current market. I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon.